Welcome to UIC 101, Managing Unionized Employees at UIC. Union-represented employees have rights under state laws and collective bargaining agreements that may impact how they are managed in comparison with non-union employees. Effective management techniques have to account for these differences. Understanding the union environment will help dispel workplace myths that prevent effective management. What you need to know includes employees' rights under state law and UIC's philosophy of labor relations, how to identify collective bargaining units at UIC, an understanding of how unions organize and the rules of collective bargaining, the difference between an unfair labor practice and a grievance, and how to respond to a request to have a union representative present in employee disciplinary investigation meetings. Illinois state law establishes the right of UIC employees to organize and assist unions and to engage in concerted activities related to their wages, hours, and terms and conditions of employment. UIC and unions must negotiate in good faith with each other. Except for police units, employees may engage in strikes. State agencies enforce employer and employee rights and regulate collective bargaining, and employees have the right to not join a union and to refrain from any union and concerted activity. However, fair share requires payment of a fee to the union for representation costs. The Labor and Employee Relations Department engages in several activities and services. Labor relations services include development of campus bargaining strategies and proposals, labor contract negotiations and contract interpretation, contract administration, including grievance hearings at the chancellor's level, and advice and consultation with managers and administrators. Employee relations services include counseling civil service employees on employment policies and rules as established by the university and civil service system, advising managers on job behavior or performance of both civil service and academic professional employees and implementation of a system of corrective and progressive discipline, scheduling and conducting pre-disciplinary hearings and reconciliation meetings for civil service employees, and provision of client relationship manager service to operating colleges and units, including AP employee relations issues. UIC's labor philosophy is as follows. Recognizing how critical the UIC staff is to the mission of teaching, research, and service, we approach negotiations with our union-represented employees to be consistent with other HR programs, striving to remain a destination employer with a distinctively competitive employment culture. We negotiate with the goal of reaching agreements with unions that are supportive of our employees and the goals of UIC. To act in accordance with this philosophy, you should treat all employees fairly, provide equitable wages and benefits, practice public praise, private discipline, motivate and coach, investigate, don't assume, and document in a timely manner, utilize objective records when preparing performance evaluations or discipline, learn and follow processes for mediation or hearing for issues raised by employees, understand that when a collective bargaining agreement is in place, specific language trumps policy. If the contract is silent or nonspecific, policy governs. With respect to labor governance at UIC, the Board of Trustees is the management side party to collective bargaining agreements. The campus negotiates the agreement and then makes its recommendation to the Board of Trustees for approval. Campus HR invites interested parties to suggest changes in existing collective bargaining agreements and to participate in the formulation of a negotiating position for all effective departments and colleges. The State University's Civil Service Act and related regulations govern many areas of civil service employment, such as classification, examinations, appointments, transfers, layoffs, seniority, etc. Certain federal and state laws and University of Illinois policy and rules are incorporated into the collective bargaining agreements covering civil service employees. The civil service system's designation of the Medical Center and the Rockford and Peoria campuses as separate places of employment relates only to the civil service system and not to the collective bargaining process. IELRA regulations govern composition of bargaining unit parameters and establish presumptive campus-wide bargaining units. UIC has 19 collective bargaining units. Unions organize using mass mailings, phone calls, and visits to employees. A union obtains employee signatures on cards authorizing the union to represent them. A union claim may be recognized in one of two ways. If a petition for election is filed by a union, at least 30% of employees in an appropriate bargaining unit must sign union authorization cards to trigger a secret ballot election. To win, the union needs yes votes totaling 50% plus one of those casting ballots. If a majority interest petition is filed by a union with the labor board, there is no election. However, if at least 50% plus one of the employees in the proposed appropriate bargaining unit have signed cards authorizing the union to represent them in collective bargaining, the union will be certified. There are two types of charges a unionized employee may allege. The first is a charge of unfair labor practices, alleging a violation of rights under Illinois statute. The second is a grievance, or allegation of a violation of the employee's collective bargaining agreement. For a detailed explanation of managing either of these allegations, please see the UIC 101 module titled The Employee Grievance Process. It is important to adhere to an employee's right to union representation, known as Weingarten rights. Unionized employees have a right to have a union representative present during an interview with a supervisor conducted for the purpose of investigating whether the employee will be subjected to discipline. Unless a specific provision of the collective bargaining agreement says otherwise, management is not required to inform the employee of his or her Weingarten right. It is the employee's responsibility to make that request. It is imperative that the supervisor conducting the interview be familiar with the discipline section of the collective bargaining agreement. If an employee requests a union representative, the manager may stop questioning until the representative arrives or call off the interview. Although it is not recommended, the manager may also choose to advise the employee that the interview will be called off unless the employee voluntarily gives up his or her right to a union representative. If union representation is engaged, the manager must inform the union representative of the subject of the interview. The representative must be permitted to speak privately with the employee before the interview. During questioning, the representative may interrupt to clarify a question or object to confusing or intimidating tactics. However, the representative may not act in a manner that is inappropriate or that interferes with the interview. If you have any questions about managing unionized employees or would like to pursue consultation, contact Labor and Employee Relations. You may also request an informative booklet, A Supervisor's Guide to Employee Relations. Thank you for watching. We hope this Working at UIC 101 module has been helpful.